We're talking to Steve Mead and Nigel Slee from Jazz North.
It's a lovely late July day, and we're just a few days away now from the Manchester Jazz Festival, and we're really excited about the Northern Line showcase that's coming up.
We've just had our final planning meeting for the showcase day. We're on our jazz bikes and we're raring to go. We've got 11 bands on the roster this year, and we showcase them all in one day in 11 hours. So it's 11 bands in 11 hours throughout 3 festival venues in Manchester, isn't it, Nigel?
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited about it. Obviously, I haven't seen all the organising that you've had to do for the festival, but it was really exciting. Was it last year? No, I can't remember now. Yeah, last year when we put out the call to any jazz musician across the north of England to apply to be considered for the Northern Line Showcase, because Northern Line is quite unique. We give a platform opportunity for Northern jazz artists, and the way we do that is we help by subsidising their performance fees with any promoter across the north of England. We're talking about the showcase that's coming up next week, but I guess from what we've just been talking about, we can say that Northern Line has exploded out beyond the confines of the north of England. We've had Northern Line artists now playing this just in the last couple of months. Wow.
There's one of them now,
yeah.
Escaping beyond the north.
Yeah. There she goes. So we have Myers played in Norway, Torp have just played in our house in Denmark, and Skelter played in Rotterdam. When does the festival launch?
Well, festival's opening on the 28th, which is Friday, down in Albert Square, and we've got a lovely surprise for visitors, not just to the Northern Line Showcase, but for the festival in general, a Spiegel tent, which is where most of the gigs are going to be taking place this year.
What's a Spiegel tent?
Well, it's an amazing, it's a temporary structure. There's only about 12 of them left in the world, but these big burly chaps come over from Belgium in their articulated lorry. They put it up in a day. It's a 1920s wooden circular structure that once you're inside, it's an incredibly wonderful, magical experience. It just feels like you're transported into a totally different world. Quite
so
a
it's just
cabaret vibe,
yeah.
Not circusy, but it's got that wooden panelling and draping and the roof and coloured glass around the top edge. It's lovely, and lots of wooden booths around the kind of perimeter to sit in and listen to the music.
So it's just like a big wigwam.
It's big wigwam. It's when we're going to have all sorts of cowboys and Indians coming down to play throughout the week.
The jazz wigwam.
Yes.
I love it.
But Northern Line Showcase, let's talk about that, because it's Monday the 31st of July. It's all day. It's not just the Salon Perdu, the Spiegel tent. We're using St Anne's Church, just around the corner from the square, and the performance space in Central Library, which is the total opposite really, lovely, clean, white, crisp, contemporary space. So visitors to the showcase can come and make their way across those 3 spaces throughout the day and see 11 bands. They're all playing for about half an hour each, aren't they?
They are. I love the fact you've got jazz performances taking place in a library. You think of libraries as being like, shh, don't talk, don't say anything. So how on earth have you persuaded the Central Library in Manchester to let you put on live music? What's going on?
Well, I've had this overdue book for a number of years. When I went to see Chris there, he was they refurbished the Central Library a couple of years ago, and they're very keen to open it up for much wider usage of the spaces in there. And they've built a performance space in the fabric of the building along the kind of contoured edge of it, and it's a lovely kind of 150 capacity clean, multi-use space. But live music sounds great in there. And the fact that we can open the shutters and open the music up to the whole ground floor of the library is really special, and it's great for Northern Line Day because it's free and it means anyone can come in and enjoy the music when it's in there.
Hey, I've just realised we're talking about Northern Line and we're standing underneath the railway line. Oxford Road railway station is just almost above our heads. We're in a little kind of archway halfway down a street getting out of the wind, so we could do this little recording for you. So, that's a lovely time with Northern Line. Trains in the background. Okay, so we talked about the 3 venues, and of course St Anne's Church. And St Anne's Church, you've got would you call him the vicar? Nigel?
Nigel. He's another Nigel.
What a character.
He's quite a dude, Nigel.
Yeah.
And he's got such an authoritative tone to his welcome when you come into the church. He's part and parcel of the festival now, really. He comes and welcomes you, and then just before we get going with the music, he'll enthuse about the church and its building and its history, and just loves having people in there, loves having the building used as well. He's a great contemporary music fan as well. He knows a lot about music.
I was struck last year being in the church and watching the films we've recorded there, but there's that lovely stained glass window. Is it with like a sheep on there, something to do with the old heritage industries?
And the kind of, the kind of industrial scenes from throughout Manchester's history as well. And that church, the church is amazing. You can see a couple of paintings of Manchester from 250 years ago, and the church is the only building there. It's fields all around, and let's look at it now. And the church is still there, still at the centre of the city, but it's changed quite a bit since then.
Let's push on. So our day starts, I think, at 12 o'clock.
The first gigs are at 12 o'clock, and all the performances are half an hour long, with about perhaps half an hour, 20 to 30 minutes in between each gig, so there's time to get from one gig to the next. And as I say, we're rotating across 3 venues. But the first gig of the day...
Just 1 second. So there's time, in theory, if the gig is half an hour, you can see everything, so you can finish the gig.
All of every gig. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And how many? And there's 11.
11 bands.
11 bands
throughout the day.
And it's about 10 and a half hours. We'll call it 11. So 11 bands, 11 hours.
Yeah.
And this is all free.
It's all free. It's all
Incredible.
free. But you do have to register in advance for your ticket. And I believe they're selling very, very fast. There'll be a few tickets available, first come, first serve on the door. It's free, but you do need to register for entry, because we're always oversubscribed for the amount of space that we have available in the library. And
it's always amazing that on a Monday afternoon we can fill out a venue. There are enough people wanting to watch jazz on a Monday afternoon.
Yes.
So who's the first band on?
The first band on is Dan Wheeldon. He's a Manchester pianist, and he's bringing his new quartet to the festival here. And Dan is such an exquisite player, isn't he? He's got a kind of contemporary European style to his compositions and his playing. It's very fine musicians in the band. We've got people like Caroline Bowden on drums, and Richard Isles, of course, playing a flugelhorn, be a familiar name to a lot of listeners across the north.
So here's Dan Wheeldon playing an extract from one of his tunes. Hey Steve, so we just finished Dan Wildner playing in the Spiegel tent. So do we leave the wigwam now, or do we stay?
At that point, you stay in the Salon Perdu, because in half an hour after Dan's finished, we have the second band of the day, Nigel.
Oh, okay. I have to get my glasses on, remind me something. Our Deep Cabaret. How did you describe it? You said it was like channeling fragments of left field pop. So there's bits of African folk and jazz, and the instruments are really quite bizarre. We've got hurdy-gurdy bagpipes, overtone vocals, and mashed up with text from science, literature, journalism and history.
And of course Maya Bigger on cello as well, who we were just talking about.
But look, you're thinking, what on earth are these guys talking about? What on earth does this sound like?
Have a quick listen.
Yeah, here we go. Deep Cabaret.
At the end, till the vessel was ready, supposing himself deserted, and not knowing why, he fell into a state of complete stupefaction. Secreting himself in the law and stretching out on the boards, he refused all sustenance. Within a few days in this state, death terminated his suffering. They excavated him in a lonely grave, in a rabbit's warren, 20 yards from the sea. whither they conveyed remain.
So that was Deep Cabaret. Great to hear that in the Spiegel tent. So where are we going to go to next, Steve?
Well, we're going from Lancaster, where Deep Cabaret are based, all up to the northeast now. Burkett and Fisk, they're a acoustic guitar and violin duo from around near Newcastle, I think, near County Durham and Newcastle.
I think Peter Lee in Durham is where Emma's from.
Yeah. So they're playing the repertoire of and inspired by Venuti and Lang, the great kind of classic guitar and violin duo from, I think, the 20s and the 30s. And we're going over to St Anne's Church for their, well, recital is an odd word to use, but it seems quite appropriate for the music, I think. They're great players, they're very melodic, it's very tuneful, it's very, very kind of warm, authentic sound, and I think we should have a quick listen to what they do just to remind ourselves of how wonderful these two musicians are playing together.
Okay, here's Burkett and Fisk playing some Venuti and Lang. Well, I really quite enjoyed that, Steve. I'm looking forward to hearing that. Now I think we need to go back somewhere else. Are we going to the library or back to the Wigwam, the Salon Perdue?
I think it's time to go to the library to return that overdue book I've had out. Okay. But we're going to stay in the northeast in terms of where the bands are coming from, aren't we? Because Archipelago and a really exciting new band coming out of Newcastle. They're a trio fronted by sax player Faye McCalman. They play really high energy sax, bass and drums, bit of improv, bit of garage rock, a bit of minimalism, all mashed together with some free improvisation. So it's a mixture of silence, riffs, noise and grooves. And I think you can get the idea of the music they make from this extract of their music now.
So that was Archipelago. Are we going to go somewhere different now, Steve? Are we going back to the Salon Perdu or library?
We're going to tiptoe back to the church.
Oh, tiptoe, I see what you did then.
Yeah.
So a band from Leeds this time, and it's a young four-piece. Now it has the really wonderful vocalist Alice Higgins, and it's a really kind of stripped-down setup with guitar, double bass, and trumpet. They take a whole range of different tunes, but give them their own sort of unique twist. But it's a really fresh, kind of stripped-down sound with Alice's beautiful vocals. So I'm really looking forward to that, and that should be really lovely in the church, wouldn't you think so?
Yeah. Let's have a listen.
Every day I see you, my hands were made for you, and you're always giving me fresh every point of view. Pick you up after school, every day a misery. I'm blue with the migraine, and all the songs sound better when you are next to me, 'cause they come naturally. Mr. Magic, take a token, yeah, Mr. Magic of my love, Mr. Magic, yeah. I'll see you through the smoke. Laying on my bed, I reach over for you, and you're so fresh, you even make the standards bloom. But it's just for you, Mr. Magic. Take a token, yeah, Mr. Magic of my love, Mr. Magic, yeah. I'll see you through the
Well, after Tiptoe, I think I need a bit of go somewhere different, Steve. Where are we going to go next?
I think you need an early night, don't you, Nige? You need a bit of rest. Early night, another really exciting trio. Like Archipelago a couple of bands ago, Early Night have similar lineup. There's sax, double bass and drums. But what they do, I think, is incredible with that lineup. They pack a punch. All their pieces are really short, sharp and punchy. They're fun, they're lively, they're quite rhythmic. And they're sort of taking the spirit of punk, I think, and free improvisation, but delivering it and packaging it with humour and melody and fun. I think we should have a quick listen to them just to get an idea.
Okay, here we go. So here's Early Night. Wow, early night. That was something indeed. I'm looking forward to catching them on Monday the 31st of July in central Manchester. In fact, playing in the Central Library. Did you give your book back?
Oh, God, forgot. Never mind.
Okay.
Next year.
Next year. So we're moving on from that. We're back to the Salon Perdu, and I think we're back up to the northeast this time.
We are. Now, I think this is pronounced Ushaw, is it? Ushaw Ensemble? Because Ushaw is a place where there's a college, and the pianist Paul Edis, who's based around Newcastle, was commissioned by the college there to create this piece, this ensemble and this piece of music, dedicated, to their namesake. And it's a mixture of traditional music from that region with jazz sounds and jazz melodies, so you get that nice kind of folky jazz crossover, especially with some of the instruments in there, like the Northumbrian pipes. So I think have a quick listen to this and see what you think about this. I think it's going to sound absolutely lovely in the Salon Perdu.
And there we go, that was the Ushaw Ensemble. You can catch them on Monday the 30th of July at our Northern Line Showcase. And I think we're staying in the Salon Perdu now for the rest of the night. Is that right, Steve?
That's absolutely right. We've got another 4 gigs to get through. We've only got to about 6 o'clock so far. We've still got another 4 hours of jazz ahead of us.
We should have been giving the times all the way through this, but you can find out. Go to the Jazz North website and there's a link, or go to the Manchester Jazz Festival website. Just Google either of those two and you'll get all the timings. But okay, so it's 6 o'clock now. Oh, watch out, Steve. Whoa. On your bike, it's tricky in Manchester. So it's 6 o'clock. We're back in the Salon Perdu. Now this is Skelter, and this looks like a lot of fun. 2 guys, and in the picture, one's got a dyed gold beard and one's got a blue beard.
Has he got a cast?
Has he got a cast? Is he a pirate? They look like psychedelic pirates with their mirrored glasses. Tell us about Skelter.
I'm really looking forward to this. We saw the band when they did their premiere gig actually over in Rotterdam. We were talking about them earlier, but this is their first UK date, isn't it? They're launching the band and launching their album at this gig, and it's such an exciting new sound. Only 2 musicians, but wow, what a punch they make with that. Sam Healy, amazing sax player that everyone will have heard with Beats and Pieces. And of course, Craig's drumming has been heard in all sorts of bands from Toolshed, across Manchester. He'll be familiar to a lot of rock and indie and jazz listeners. But together, the duo, play their acoustic instruments, but they use a lot of triggered samples as well to build up the layers of the sound, and it makes such an exciting ride what they're doing with this music, and I'm really looking forward to hearing them. Well, next up we've got Perpetual Motion Machine, and these guys are from Leeds, aren't they? This is going to be
and
7:30.
Sheffield.
Leeds and Sheffield.
And Sheffield.
Isn't it great to cover so many areas of the north with this scheme? We're really reaching across the whole area, I think, with the talent that's living and working across the north. So you know these guys, don't you?
I do. Let me talk about these guys. I love this band because it's a really unusual lineup. It's two guitars. I mean, I love electric guitar, but then there's two sax players as well, and no keyboard, and just drums and bass. And on bass, there's Gary Jackson. Now, Gary is just such a marvellous bass player. He has loads of electronic effects, and he's not frightened of using them, but he uses them in a really musical way. Steve Hanley on drums. Steve, I think, has been on every round of Northern Line. He's like the ubiquitous Northern Line drummer. He's got such a great pair of hands, great ears, wonderful player. So they're doing really contemporary music, original music of their own, but it's blending jazz and rock. But they're very careful to say, and also in practice, not to get this. It's not jazz rock. This is because people have different kind of views about what jazz rock means, but this is actually taking the best of rock and the best of jazz and giving a really distinct kind of feeling. But if you want to give you an idea, I mean, if you listen to the last David Bowie album, I mean, that was quite inspirational to them as well, and I think they do a few of the tracks off that. So if you like that last album, I can't remember what was his last.
Dark Star.
Oh yeah, Dark Star.
Yeah.
Remember that video with him in bed? I mean, that was just so weird. So they play some tracks from Dark Star and their own tunes. So
Great.
and also Peter Gabriel tracks. I mean, this is my cup of tea. Check this
Nigel.
out. there we go. What do you think then, Steve?
I think that was everybody's cup of tea, not just yours, Nigel.
Hey.
We're going to stay in Leeds now because the Electrio, the next band up, who are performing at 8:30, also in the Salon Perdu, so you're there for the night. These guys, it's just a trio of keyboards, bass and drums. But again, I think like you were just saying about Perpetual Motion Machine, they produce such an energetic groove. Audiences go absolutely crazy for Dan Goldman, don't they, the keyboard player. He just sets such an impeccable groove going with the various keyboards that he uses. He especially likes the Fender Rhodes, doesn't he?
Does.
He's a big fan of that instrument.
I mean, I was at music college with him back in the 90s, and back then he was Funky Dan, and he would just play on the Fender Rhodes, and this little guy, well, no, it's not little Dan, but he'd be lugging in this great big heavy Fender Rhodes into the college bar to set it up to play. But he was he was if you wanted a funky keyboard player, he was the guy.
So the music is really lively. It's really kind of quite clubby in places, and very, very kind of danceable, and very accessible as well.
Yeah, if I had to give one kind of reference point, I'd say, Herbie Hancock, Headhunters.
Yeah.
If you like that whole Headhunters, Herbie Hancock thing, I mean, that is where Dan is coming from.
Great.
It'd be interesting to see them play though on a larger stage, because they work really well in small spaces.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to see how they can translate that really exciting small club, small room vibe.
Great. Let's check them out.
Wow, I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted too. Is it time to go home?
Yeah, let's go. Let's finish. Let's go.
There's one more band though.
One
we
more.
can't. We have the ultimate band of the night, which is Abunye. Now, this is a really interesting project, isn't it? It's the biggest band on the roster. There's 10 musicians in the band, but it's not the number that's special. I think what I love about this is the combinations of traditions that are coming together in this band. Again, it's a few players from Leeds, but also singers who are based in Huddersfield, but actually come from South Africa, don't they, originally? So,
yeah, is it the Natal region?
Yeah. So what I think is fascinating about this is Dave Evans, he's a keyboard player, educator. He's spotted this opportunity to bring together this community of vocalists and his own jazz trio, and really make something new from that combination. It's song-based, it's very rhythmic, it's got that township vibe to it, but it's also got the jazz aesthetic, and it's got a lovely, positive, warm feeling that I think communicates so well when they're on stage.
ngesandla sam emulanjeni ubongilinda sandla sam emulanjeni ubongilinda sandla sam kulapho yaqala khona yonke lento emulanjeni sandla sam kulapho yaqala khona yonke lento emulanjeni sandla sam
noma bengakhuluma bathi nombani mina ngizithandela wena noma bengakhuluma bathi nombani mina ngizifela ngawe noma bengakhuluma bathi nombani mina ngizithandela wena noma bengakhuluma bathi nombani mina ngizifela
ubongilinda
Well, what a great way to finish our days.
Great.
So that
It's
is
gonna be lovely.
band
Really
number
lovely.
11.
It is band 11. And by 10 o'clock, you're going to be totally jazz northed out. You'll have northern lined yourself to sleep by that point. But we do urge you to go and have a listen to the bands as we've been sort of sampling them throughout this chat. But if you want to go and explore more, there's the Jazz North website, and the Jazz Festival website has got more details and more audio about all the full lineups as well.
Absolutely, and all the timings. And the other thing is, the whole point about being on Northern Line is that Jazz North, we're supporting these artists to get out and play right across the north of England and further afield. So keep a lookout in your particular part of the north. Check out with your local jazz promoter, your local jazz club. Go and demanding, when are you going to have the Perpetual Motion Machine or Tiptoe, or any of these bands that you've seen and liked? Put in a request to get them to come across to play at your local jazz club. Or why not become a jazz promoter? That'd be really exciting. Come to Northern Line Day, be so inspired by what you've heard, you could become a jazz promoter.
One of the best professions in the world, apparently. No, it's been great. Look, I've really enjoyed this chatting through the day. I'm really looking forward to the day, and it'd be great to see as many audiences as possible coming down to enjoy all the music. And I know you're looking forward to it as well. Mike.
Absolutely, I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to sign off now. We'll find another bit of music to play from one of these bands. Not sure, who should we have to play out from? Or maybe someone from last year?
How about
Or
someone
no?
from the previous year's
Yeah.
showcase? Because we've had a listen to all 11 bands. I think it'd be nice to have a listen to this extract, which is one of my highlights from last year's showcase.
Absolutely, here we go. And so this is Goodbye from Standing Underneath, Oxford Road Railway Station in Manchester. See you soon. Thanks. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Firebird Quartet. Yes. Tim Carter on the drums. John Marley at the bass. Martin Longhorn, piano and keyboards. And Mr. Ian Chalk on the trumpets. All the way from York. Thank you guys, that was marvellous.